תודה רבה לכולם. Thank you everybody. I just came back about an hour ago from Dubai. Dubai has a big conference, from 800 people, and the one thing they're talking about is what is going on here in Israel. Yair, it's unbelievable. There they are wasting time thinking and talking, and here you guys are doing business. The Dubai conference was very difficult, but we're here in an entirely different atmosphere on Yair. Ala kefak. I've been asked to give or to talk with you about the state of the diamond industry. And it's a big change from Dubai. In Dubai, we had the producers and we had the banks, but there were no really traders so much there. And now we talk from a different perspective here. She will disappear, but I put this lady on there because it's on a gambling board. And too many years we were gambling in the industry. And I claim we don't have to gamble. We have so much information now that we can forecast, we can know what is happening, but we just have to be honest with ourselves and accept the facts when you hear them and don't interpret them in a different way because it's more convenient. I'm saying that because last year in March at the mining conference in Toronto, when prices of rough were going up, I said that prices were going to go down by 12 to 13% because that's what the models say. And the models don't really lie if the information is right. People were very upset, were very angry. How do you predict that prices go down while everybody wants it to go up? But the rough prices did go down. And those who realize and recognize the demand and the supply factors can run their business in a much more efficient way. One thing is sure, volatility will be with us, and there's no way around it. What I want to do in the next 45 minutes, I want to talk about the supply and demand drivers. I want to talk about what happens with the producers. I'm also talking about the role of financing in the diamond business, and talking about the manufacturing overcapacity, but I will talk a lot about synthetics, and I have a good reason for that. I don't know if we can make all the subjects here, but let's just start. It's always good to take a little bit of view about what is happening. Here you see what happens on the slides in the last 5 years, and our projections also for 2013. Now, on the global retail demand, we say that this year or last year, it went up by 2.2%. You will hear Varda and others who say, no, retail went up 4.5% and even more. And they are right, but they are also darned wrong. Because we have to realize that we are selling diamonds. We don't sell the rest. The diamond content in jewelry in retail is going down. If 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if you had a diamond jewelry retail amount, you knew that 25% or 24%, depending on the country, of it would be the diamond value in wholesale prices. That has gone down. So if you hear the nice figures about retail demand increase last year, please realize that when we measure it in what we call the polished wholesale prices, the diamond content, it has gone up only by 2.2%. I also want to point out that we are now only back to the 2007 level. So we have come a long way since the crisis. Only in 2013 we'll do better. The cutting center polish demand last year, I don't have to tell you, was about 9% down, but we predicted next year or this year to go up by 10%. Those are models, I don't want to get into it now too much. But I do want to say that on the rough side, the supply and demand are quite in equilibrium, and we don't expect rough prices in 2013 and 2014 to go up in any meaningful manner, but will go sideways. This is the pipeline that we have published since the mid-'80s every year, in which you see basically how much rough comes onto the market, that is $15 billion, and how much is the value of the diamonds in the jewelry, which is $22 billion. In other words, all the cutting centers, all your efforts, India, Israel, Belgium, all the activities, it really adds from 15 billion to 22 billion. That is very important. The total added value of the industry is 7 billion. And worldwide, if there is a 10% profit, and there is no 10% profit, that would be 700 million. We are really kind of way the suckers between, on the one hand, the miners, and on the other hand, the jewelers. But that's where we are, we're in between. I want to stress out that figure because I came from Dubai and their turnover is 40 billion, and then you go to Belgium and turnover is 30 billion. You know, diamonds should get points for like airlines getting miles, and I think the only people that really earn a lot in this business are Malka, Meat and Brinks, because the diamonds go back and forth, and we have double accounting. Here, we try to avoid double accounting, and you see the figures as they are. This is provisionally. However, and that is what I want to talk about in the first, we have added gems, rough gem synthetics, and recycling. Syntheti במחזור. הסינתטי, כאן יש את כל המרכזי הליטוש שיש בענף, על הסינתטי, הליטוש הוא באמריקה, בסינגפור, במלזיה, ברוסיה ובמקומות אחרים. אני רוצה להגיד לכם, ואנחנו נדבר על זה די הרבה, השנה האחרונה הכנס לפחות $500 מיליארד סינתטי בתוך הפייפליין, sorry, and I apologize, I go back, I put on these synthetics for a good purpose, because now we have cutting centers that cut and polish synthetics, and they are primarily in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Russia, other places. They were in the United States, a little bit less now, but there are 3 or 4 places in Canada. Our estimate, and it's a low estimate, is that last year, at least $500 million out of the $22 billion that is worldwide, all the polished, was synthetic. Why don't we see that? Why don't we hear that? Because they don't tell. They don't tell. If you want to find really a large amount of synthetics, you will have a lot of trouble finding a seller. This is a very sad situation, but I want to add how did I come to these figures and why do I am so confident about them. But before I do, there's another global picture. If we take the entire downstream, the $7 billion, all the cutting centers, and we make that one company, and we call that company Downstream Incorporated, how does the balance sheet of that company look? We have for the last 6-7 years, and with a whole team of economists, done that every year. And I want to point out something. If we look at 2012, we see that the rough that went into the downstream was 15 billion, and some $21 billion of polish came out of it. If you should take all the cost of it, then we come down to a net loss of the industry worldwide of a little bit below 1%. Now, there are some companies that make a hell of a lot of money, and others lose more. As an average, the industry has not earned money, not in 2012, and not in 2011. We hope and expect that in 2013 there will be a little. This is very problematic. The banks see this, and banks have already put on note, have put the beers and other producers on notice that they are not interested in financing a business that doesn't make money. Having said that, and it may sound contradictory, but it isn't, the industry's financial situation has never been better. Because if we look at the equity, the ratio between equity and borrowing, then in 2008, before the crisis, we saw that the equity in the industry was around 8 billion, and the bank borrowing was about 16 billion. It was about 1 to 2. What happened during the crisis is that money came back into the business. The bankers told people, bring money from home. And then when you brought money from home, then they said it wasn't enough and bring more. We can see that the equity has grown in the business. At the moment, here we have the equity. We see that 2011 was 11 billion, went down to 10 billion, 9.5. But also the borrowing ratio is much healthier. There is money in the business, and that is good. We only have to make sure that we keep it there. And of all the centers, the healthiest place is Israel, but for the wrong reason. We are the healthiest because the banks don't give money, and that is a stupid mistake, and I don't care what anyone else is thinking. The entire economies of the world in the last 20, 30 years have been able to grow because of credit. I will show you there's a direct link between growth of a business and credit. The business cannot grow without credit. Look at this. And that is what I want to emphasize here. The downstream increasing dependency on borrowing. Look at the last 10, 12 years. If you look at 1999, then all the diamond content in retail was about 13 billion. That has gone up now to about 22 billion. It has gone up by about 9 billion. But now look at the same time at the bank lending. In 1999, the bank lending was 5 billion. Today, it is around 16 billion, 16 to 17 billion. You can see that the entire growth, the difference between that 5 billion and the 13, the difference between the 13 billion diamond content and the 22 billion diamond content today, you see that the whole difference is being driven by borrowing. There's nothing wrong with that. The whole economy of the world went like that. If borrowing goes down, and we have a funding cycle I don't want to show here today, I have for time, only for reasons of time, if the lending goes down, if there's less money to borrow, it has an impact on prices, it has an impact on the whole cycle, and it is no good. So at the moment in India, if we talk a worldwide debt of about 16 to 17 billion, the Indians have about 7.5 to 8 billion in India. They take 2.5 billion in Antwerp. They take another 1 billion the rest of the world. And really, they are the great takers of the debt. And therefore, they are also growing more than we see in other places. That really, those slides show a little bit the same that I just said. We don't have to get into it again. But you can see that the growth has been fueled primarily by bank borrowings. And don't let that scare you, by the way. Worldwide, the diamond industry has a darn good name in terms of the banking risk. There are different parameters. There is what you call the probability of default, which is considered very low in diamonds. The loss at default is, however, very big. So if there is already default, it is hard for the bank to recover. But there aren't too many, and all those big cases that we hear about, haircuts and all the other stuff, are really not related to the current business. Then there's something else. You have to look not just at the value, but also at the volumes. And this is what explains a lot about what's happening in India. Do you realize, and look good at this slide and the next slide, if you forget all my slides but only look at those two, then you get a different view of what the diamond industry is all about. The annual polished supply of carats, 80% of all carats sold every year are under 18 points. נגיד בעברית, 80% מהביזנס, כל המלוטר שנמכר זה פחות מ-18 נקודות. But if we go further and we count stones, 98% of all polished stones sold every year is below 7 points. Why is it so important that you realize this? Because it has a lot of implications on the speech of Tom yesterday about the synthetics. You have seen this parcel. We have publicized it. Anyone here that doesn't know what that parcel is, that's a parcel that was sold in New York by a good diamantaire to another good diamantaire who brought it to Belgium. In Belgium, he tried to sell it to a couple of places. He didn't get really the price he wanted, so he didn't sell. At the end of the day, he thought, why not getting a little bit certificates of it? Most of those goods were about half a carat. And then he found out that the whole darn parcel was synthetics. Every stone you see on this picture is synthetics. But that's only a very small part of the story. It's also a very small part of what went to Antwerp. The diamonds were sold, by the way, by a New York company called Suraj Diamonds. We know exactly, and the Suraj Diamonds, the owners, or the previous owners, are also the owners of the greatest facilities in the world of synthetic manufacturing. By the way, if you ask where that parcel is today, I tell you where the parcel is today. It went back to New York. It was smuggled back to New York, and probably some of our American guests here today may already have bought it without knowing. Now, what irritates me most of all of this? The entire leadership in Antwerp knew about this parcel. Nobody went to the police. Not a single person said there is something wrong here. The industry has to start thinking what it does with those situations. Here you see another picture. And here you see the factory that was before. This is an old picture. If you look on the left side, you can see Clark McEwen, who is now with Sterling. He's standing there. This is a picture from I guess 6 or 7 years ago. That is a synthetic facility in Florida. It has been closed because now there are huge facilities of hundreds of machines and hundreds of workers in quite a few centers, in quite a few places. Look at this. You just look at newspaper ads. That is Jatin Mehta. He was in the past the head of the German Jewelry Export Promotion Council in India. Today, I call him the synthetic Tsar of the world. You see the advertising that he does in the press. This is on the company he has in Singapore. And he tells that the company is currently located so-and-so in Singapore and is planning to expand into multinational cooperation in different countries, and that is what they are doing. Then they have in Malaysia another factory, and I follow the advertisement. I see how all the time they take in more exports and more people to do only one thing, to make synthetic gem quality diamonds that go into the market and you cannot find them. Now, don't tell me that you have hundreds or maybe even thousands of workers that work around the clock and you cannot find the goods. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem here. Now, I think that yesterday, Tom probably addressed it very professionally. because there is a very funny stuff going on here. There are two different things. There's the CVD system, as he explained to you, and there is the HPHD system. The perfect diamond is one that you make on the CVD system, and then you improve the color with the other system. That's what they're doing. In Singapore, they do the CVD. In Malaysia, they do the HPHD, and the diamonds follow both routes. Look at this. That is not the kind of diamond that you have seen. The CVD comes like a kind of little wafer, little thing, and you cut it up. You cut it up in different ways. Here you can see how that goes. This is the back side, this is the front side. If you make some calculations, then out of a little square of 25 millimeters width, 25 length, depth of 5 millimeters, that is 53 carats in the rough. The total polished out of that is 35 carats. And out of that little piece, you can get 13 stones of 2 carats and 36 stones of a quarter carat. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that about 3 years ago, I brought to Israel 3 or 4 of those stones. A diamantaire here gave it to his factory to work on, and it was polished. Not a single worker complained or felt that there was something going on here. And this is the latest thing if you want to buy the wife a very unusual present for her birthday. You can buy her an original Seki machine. Seki is the main supplier of the creators, how do you call it, the reactors that create the CVD. You can buy them for anywhere between $40,000 and $70,000. You can put them in your garden. Yes, you do need technicians, okay? It is not that simple. On the other hand, it is also not that complicated anymore. And anyone can start, or almost anyone can do this now. Now, when we talk about the $500 million that we believe is in the market only last year and growing, it is based partly on the hundreds of machines that they have sold. And Apollo, Genesis, Carnegie, they all buy the machines there. And based on other information from Surat. I just want to final remark about this, especially for our American friends. In Surat, in India, local people estimate that between 5 and 7% of all production there of 1-pointers, 2-pointers, 3-pointers is already synthetic. And they don't care. Because price-wise, it's all not significant. It gets in there. But now I want to warn you about something. If you look at the polished imports in the United States, the domestic consumption in America is about $8 billion. But you see that the net imports are not more than $3 billion. How come? Most of the jewelry of the synthetics is being set already in jewelry. It doesn't reach the market as loose company, as loose stones. Jatin Mehta, who controls the technology, also has a jewelry company with a $1 billion turnover, and we don't know that they are really buying polished in the market, and there's only one example. Synthetics is there, and it doesn't make any difference if you have equipment that you can or cannot locate or distinguish, because that is a fact of life. That is a part of the supply and demand. So it is not sufficient to look only what comes out of the mines. It is also to know what gets into the market and affects the equilibrium, and it affects the price level of the polished goods. The other thing that impacts the price level, of course, is the pawn expo, the pawn shops. Pawn is P-A-W-N, it's not P-O-R-N or whatever, and it is legitimate. That business is a huge business. There are many companies now that have as their business model going back and buying the recycled goods, just like in gold and in other commodities, back into the market. Here you see in 2012 some of the companies that were at the Pawn Expo buying the recycled goods. There are recycled tenders. We have estimated, together with Russell Short, the GIA, and some others, with the combining information, that last year at least $1.2 billion went back. Now, out of a pipeline of 22 billion polished, if you have $1.2 billion just on the recycled, that is impacting prices, whether you like or not. I call that mind the household mind. That household mind has enough, at current consumption levels, there is enough diamonds there for the next 40, 50 years if it gets back into the market. I don't want to talk too much about the natural output. Now there's the KP statistics. Everyone will give you different statistics. The KP has huge problems, and it is not so much problems that we can solve. In Dubai, we had the chair of the KP, the South African chair, and he told me in a conversation that too many diamonds are smuggled from African countries through diplomatic pouch, through diplomatic mail. So the same government that's supposed to issue the certificates are also smuggling. Then what do they want from us? I get signs from Moti that I have another 15, you said? No, 2 slides. Another 15 slides, he said. So don't look at this slide, so that doesn't count for the 15. But I want to show that the average value of production. But let me very quickly, I just want to say a word about this slide. You saw this slide from Varda Shine when she came here on the first day. This slide is being shown to brainwash all of you and to let you know there are going to be shortages and shortages. This slide is not what it says it does. It assumes consumer demand at 3.4% a year, while in the last decade the average was much lower, 2.4%. But that's not the whole thing. If they assume 3.4% is the growth, and it gets you to a gap here, they ignore the recycling, they ignore the synthetics, and they ignore the lack of marketing. And I get to the final points before Moti wants me to close, and that is that there are all kinds of beliefs here that if you just have enough children and enough marriages, by the way, there are less marriages in America, and that's a problem for the wedding jewelry. But look, the GDP worldwide is the red line. You see how that went up. And then look how the diamond market has gone up. We are losing the attraction of the consumer and losing our part in the wallet of the consumer. This is from the Bain & Company slide that says that in the 12-year period, growth in luxury market has grown by 77%, while diamond jewelry went only up 26%. There is something fundamentally wrong. We are now competing with other things and we're losing the fight. We need marketing, we need generic marketing, we need to do something to capture back the part that we are losing from the consumer wallet. That is the last thing, and then before I close down, Moti, because I see you are there, but it's very good that you stand up psychologically. When we talk about shortages, look what happened. In the last 5 years, in terms of carats, we went already down by 33%. By all the theories, then prices should have gone sky high. No, they didn't. The price has gone down as well. And the 33% drop from production in carats means 33% less manufacturing capacity. It means 33% less work for workers all around the world. And you can see here how the prices of the rough and polished have behaved at the same period that we saw that the supplies went down. And the final remark, when we look at the mining companies, Alrosa has become a much more interesting and attractive mining company. You know why? They concentrate on their core business. They say we mine diamonds and we want to sell diamonds. The bears, on the other hand, they want to have the jewelry business. They have already 43 stores around the world together with LVMH. In 10 years, they have lost already $500 million. Their annual turnover worldwide is about 160 million, but they lose 40 million. They don't understand that business. They are now also in diamond grading. They are in all kinds of stuff. The Forever Market in 1,000 stores or whatever. And the Forever Market doesn't mean much in a way because you can also have Angolan goods and Russian goods and other goods in those Forever Marks. So what is forever? I don't know. Russia, on the other hand, has a much higher profitability and concentrates on mining, while De Beers gets only 50% from the mining profits. I am ending up here. Here you see the price market, the prices of De Beers, Alrosa, and others. It is not really comparing apples and apples because Alrosa has, of course, far more smaller goods than the other mines have. I am getting to the last, and I'm asking you, please spot the differences. Look very good. And no, you're not alone, there are no differences. But look at the diamond jewelry of this lady, remembers what this business is all about, and the ultimate good that our combined efforts bring about. I wanted to end positive, so that's why I put her up, just like I put the accountant girl on the first slide. But for this audience, the last slide can only be one slide, and that is thank you, Yair, for bringing our industry to the top of the world. And thank you for listening to my presentation, and please go on doing great business, and thank you very much.